All right, welcome movement specialists to another episode of Triplane Function. We're going to take a muscle, make it relevant to you so that you can see it, so you can feel it, so you can move it, so you can teach it. All right, today I'm really excited. We're going to be doing the hamstrings. This is where it all started for me, thinking about triplane function and taking a TheraBand and really feeling how different muscles move. So, hamstrings it is today. Again, the idea of triplane function, like all videos, is taking this TheraBand not as an exercise like TheraBands are typically used, but using the TheraBand as a visual aid where it's going to overlay the muscle that we're going to be teaching so you can feel not only the TheraBand move in all three planes of motion, but you can feel your actual muscle do that as well. So what's really important at home, please get your TheraBand. Feel this. Don't just watch us do it. Feel it, because this is where you will understand what we're talking about, so not only can you help you be the movement specialist of your body, but that you can teach other people to be movement specialists of their body too. All right, so let's talk about exactly where these hamstrings attach. So take that TheraBand, find the center point, and let's wrap it around your knee right down here, Steve. Okay, now you might say, Andrew, the hamstrings don't attach all the way around my knee. Actually, it almost does. There's only a small portion that doesn't. So let's talk about these distal hamstrings. On the outside aspect, the lateral aspect, we have the biceps femoris muscle. It attaches all the way down here to your fibular head. Okay? So that on Steve is right here. Okay, the medial aspect of the hamstrings, there's two muscles actually. It's going to be your semimembranosus and semitendinosus. Your semimembranosus tendon is going to be attaching to the medial aspect of your tibia, a little bit posterior to that axis of rotation, right about here. Now that semitendinosus attaches through the pes anserine tendon and attaches actually right here to that tibial tuberosity, a little bit inferior to that. So his tibial tuberosity is right here, inferior to that is going to be right here. So on Steve here, he only has probably an 1.5 inch section of his entire anterior aspect of his tibia, lower leg, that is not hamstring. This is going to be really relevant when I'm having us wrap this TheraBand here, because you're going to feel how much torque that these hamstrings can actually generate. Okay? So those are your distal attachments. Proximal attachments, let's go ahead and face this way, Steve, is going to be at your ischial tuberosity. That's your sitting bone. If you don't feel it, sit down, put your hand underneath your butt, feel the most bony aspect of it, and that's where you're going to pull. So it's going to be right in front of that butt cheek. So that's a perfect aspect of this. Okay, so what do the hamstrings actually do? What are they commonly known for? Hamstring curls, knee flexion. And indeed, do the hamstrings do that? Absolutely. So when Steve bends up here, you can see how this TheraBand gets a little bit looser. You'll feel that loosen on you, and as you extend right here, how they get a little bit longer. That's absolutely true. But that's in the open chain position. What about this closed chain position? Steve, start a little bit of a squat for me. Perfect. And let's hold this back here and hold this right here. So you can see right now that this TheraBand is a little bit taut. Concentrically, go ahead and extend this knee. Pull this back just like that. Looser, not as taut. So, wait a minute, Steve, did I say that right? That these hamstrings can concentrically flex the knee and concentrically extend the knee?
You just blew my mind, Andrew.
Absolutely, blew my mind. This is where the hamstrings is my favorite muscle to do this on. Feel this for yourself. This is true. It doesn't only flex the knee, it extends the knee. Okay, but that's just only talking about one plane and only moving through the knee. All right, let's turn around, Steve. Let's face them. So, now let's talk about how we get this hamstring mobilized, how we get it stretched. Right now, I'm going to show you how it stretches from the bottom up, moving the bottom portions, moving more the knee to understand it. In a future video, I'm going to show you how we load into this hamstring from the top down. Who is this really important for? Well, people with mid to lower hamstring injuries can be a wide range of people, wide range of athletes. Historically, runners are known to have this mid-lower hamstring pull. So mobilizing, learning this is going to be very effective for them. Other people like pivoting athletes, think about your football player, think about your soccer player, people that have to pivot, have to turn. Thinking how you stretch effectively, mobilize this hamstring bottom up, you're going to help them as well. The people that are just hikers, maybe as they get a little bit older, how they get a little bit of a pes anserine bursitis, so they might get some medial aspect pain, whether it be a meniscus. Again, this is going to be relevant for them. So, in a very effective way, one of my most favorite ways to help mobilize the hamstring for my runners is actually going to be in a kneeling position. So Steve, I'm going to get out an AirX pad for him right here, and go ahead and kneel on this with your left knee. Let's kick this right heel out. Let's pull back just a little bit. Kick that right heel out, just right here. And give me a little bit of a slight bend in this knee. Perfect. So go ahead and lean forward here. This is one typical way of stretching the hamstring. Some people like to lie on their back with their legs up, but how functional will that be for them whenever they return to sport? This is not a bad running position. If Steve were here in a running pose, you'd say, oh yeah, he might be a high hurdler. So I like having people stretch in a position that's relevant to them, that's consistent, authentic to the movement that they want to achieve. Okay, so as he loads in here in the sagittal plane, not doing anything with affecting this knee, he should feel a stretch. Steve, do you feel that hamstring stretch?
I do.
Okay, you can double check this. Is there a little bit more tension to this TheraBand as he leans forward? Absolutely, you'll feel that too. How do we manipulate the hamstrings in the frontal plane? Well, if we abduct his foot, so let's bring it out here, just like this. See how you feeling?
Feel a little bit more.
Where do you feel it?
It's in the back of my hamstring.
Back in your hamstring. Now, if you pull real tight, you'll notice that as he abducts, it will lengthen this medial aspect. This might be a more effective way to stretch for people with this pes anterine bursitis. This lateral aspect will be a little bit short. Biceps femoris won't be as lengthened with this one. But how do we get this side lengthened? Let's adduct this hip, adduct this foot. And as you can see, Steve is getting a little bit unstable. You'll find this maybe yourself, maybe you'll find this with one of your patients. So give him a little bit of stability. Sometimes when you want mobility, and that's your goal, you need to give someone the stability so they can actually get there. So Steve is not really very much even adducted. So let's go ahead and come all the way over here, Steve. So now you can see this now got a lot more taut, this biceps femoris. The medial aspect, not so much. Steve, what do you feel?
Feel stretch right over here.
So maybe for him, maybe he's dealing with an IT band issue. This biceps femoris muscle actually invaginates with those posterior fibers of that IT band. Maybe you've been doing your IT band stretches, only stretching this lateral hip, but you weren't thinking about this rectus femoris. Might be effective for him as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get neutral in that frontal plane. Okay, that was just looking at the frontal plane. What about this transverse plane? Well, Steve, let's go ahead and internally rotate this hip just like this. When you internally rotate, you should feel this outside aspect, this biceps femoris aspect of this TheraBand lengthen a little bit. Perfect. While this inside shortens. How do we get that inside lengthened? Well, let's just go the other direction. Let's externally rotate. That's where you get, again, this medial aspect lengthened, this lateral aspect shortened. Do this at home. Feel it. So if we piece these together, if we take these separately and we say, okay, sagittal plane, frontal plane, transverse, we know we can individually get those by manipulating those variables. What happens now if we can combine all those to get a more effective stretch? Now, we already talked about if we abducted him, we load up this medial aspect. And if we externally rotate, we might even load it up anymore. And of course, get that sagittal plane there, Steve. Give me a little bit lean into. You should feel this at home, and I hope Steve feels it in this medial aspect.
Yes.
Yes, Steve does feel that. Feel it at home. Now, this is the one I'm more excited about, because since we know how loose Steve is in his biceps femoris, let's go ahead and load that up. We talked about how we can adduct this hip right here, and he already feels that. Stay square, stay square. But then, let's internally rotate his foot. Okay. And if I were to have him let go, I don't know how well he'd be able to hold this. He'll just externally rotate out of this because he is wound up. He is tightened up. So for Steve, if he's dealing with any lateral knee pain, lateral hip pain, I'd say, Steve, we've got to get this biceps femoris a little bit lengthened. So this is going to be your new homework, Steve. So thanks everybody for joining us for another episode of Triplane Function. This was Hamstrings Part 1. Teaching you how you manipulate the hamstrings from a bottom-up strategy. Next time we'll go over how you manipulate top-down, even get more bang for your buck. Thanks again. Come back soon.